Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Thailand. Today we're going to start talking about worm bins, specifically new worm bins, and a really important process that just is not talked about often enough that's extremely important for the success of your worm bin, and that is to cycle your worm bin. And by that I mean bacterial cycling. Now, I'm going to be collaborating with another YouTuber on this video who was kind enough to lend some assistance in the way of her existing content. Her name is T, and she runs a channel out on YouTube called The T Zone, Worm Farming, Vermiculture, and Worm Bins. I know, it's a mouthful, so for the remainder of this video I'm going to refer to her as T, but she has some amazing content, and as I said, she was willing to lend a hand here in what it is I'm going to demonstrate and show you today, which is the cycling, and potentially, if you have an available bin that you don't need for the worms, pre-composting. Now we're going to go over both of those and the reasons for them, so let's go ahead and get started. So you've decided on your bins, you've drilled your holes, and you've begun to clean things up. You've taken off the plastic shards from your drilling of the air holes for your bins. Everything's getting all nice and clean, no soaps or surfactants so that the worms don't scatter. And you're looking good. Everything's nice and ready to get set up, so now we just need to decide on a bedding. So, cardboard. Everybody has cardboard. Easy to get, easy to shred. We go ahead and we start to add this into our bin, and what we're going to do is we're going to probably put about 1/3 of the capacity inside of the bin with cardboard, just so that we have a small amount to start off with. We don't want to overload it. So we put a few additional shreds in there from some egg cartons, we wet it down, and hey, we're all ready to go now, right? All set. All we got to do is add our worms, right? Listen, we've all made this mistake. And these bins right now are about as hospitable for the worms as an empty room with no curtains on the windows and no furniture and a bed with no sheets, covers, or pillows. That's what this basically looks like. You're going to run into all kinds of issues, from overheating to just really unhappy worms that evacuate the bin. This can be avoided, completely and totally avoided, with something known as a bin cycle. Cycling your bin with bacteria. And there's a very easy way to do this. So if we were to go back to the very beginning when we first started adding our cardboard, at this point in time, what we can do is something known as a mesophilic cycle. This is where we get the mesophile bacteria put into the bin so that they inhabit our bedding, and this can be done very easily with a fruit and vegetable slurry. All we have to do is go ahead and pick a nice variety of fruits and vegetables, from really watery stuff to pasty stuff, hard stuff to soft stuff, because what we're going to do is we're going to use our food processor to just pulverize all this down together and come up with a slurry that looks like this. Now this is really important. At this point, what we're doing is we're going to be adding this into our bin with our bedding, and there's absolutely positively no water needed at this point. We're just going to take this slurry and we're going to mix it in thoroughly with the bedding. We want to make sure that we coat each and every shred of this bedding as much as possible. The more that we can cover and coat, the better off it's going to be. This is going to provide the food for the bacteria to go ahead and get established with. And by that, they're going to inhabit the bin. They're going to be able to start to consume these foods, the different juices and stuff that are being released and that are starting to coat onto the bedding. And once they get established, you're going to see that there's going to be these things called bacteria blooms that are going to start to show up. Now, it takes a couple days to do so, but once you get all this put together and mixed around, just go ahead and level it out so it's just, it's nice and even, something like along this lines. If you have a lid for your bin, go ahead and put your lid on, and now you're going to let this sit for about 3 days, for about 72 hours. But as you can see, 76.5 degrees, this already is the mesophilic range of 68 to 113 degrees, so we're at a perfect temperature rate to go ahead and start this process. But now here we are 3 days later, and look at this. See those white blooms? Those are bacteria blooms that the mesophiles have begun to create because their population has started to grow. And as you can see, I'm going to do just a basic temperature rating right now at the top of the bin. And I believe it's sitting, if I'm not mistaken, at 77 degrees, a little over. So what we want to do now is go ahead and up things a little bit. We're going to increase the food content, and we're going to use something, a starch, that's going to really help heat the bin up. And by that, it's going to be a food that the mesophiles can really start to dig into, that's going to start to increase the heat in this bin. The reason heating the bin up like this happens is because the mesophiles population begins to grow. And as those bacteria grow, it just naturally starts to heat the bin up. So what we're trying to do is we want to try to achieve something along the lines of 100 degrees. But if you don't get to that temperature rating, don't worry. What we're doing right now though is we're putting the rice in. We're just filling in these little trenches that we dug out by putting in white rice, and then we're going to cover it up lightly just with a really thin layer of our bedding, which at this point, as you can see, is really nice and damp. It's clumping up a little bit from the slurry that it was mixed in with, but this is perfect, exactly where it is that we want things right now at this point in time. But we go ahead and we cover up our rice, and that way we don't hopefully get as many flies. You're going to get some flies in this process. Just understand that flies are going to happen, especially if this is an indoor bin. So just be really careful and cautious with that. But anyway, we're going to cover it up, and we're going to give this an additional 4 days now to go ahead and cook. And this is going to give the mesophiles time to go ahead and get established. And 4 days later, look at this. Look at those blooms. Perfect. Exactly where we want things to be. This is now complete. This is a mesophilic cycle. They've established themselves inside of our bedding, and this is ready to go. All you have to do at this point literally is take some additional dry shredded cardboard bedding and mix it in with this. Mix it in really good, level it out, and let it go for a couple days, and you're ready to add your worms. Now, unfortunately, and you're not going to see it in this video, but I got a little overzealous and I wanted to take it thermophilic, but with the shallowness of this bin and just not enough bedding, it wasn't possible. And if you want to see the footage of what happened with that overzealous behavior of mine, I would really love to have you check out my playlist series known as Worm Bin Weekends. Trust me, you're going to learn a lot from this, especially in the way of things that you don't want to do. So as you can see, I mean, my bin didn't even hit over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is fine. Again, the mesophilic range is between 68 and 113 degrees. As long as you're able to hit that range, you're fine. That's all you really need to do for your bin. But if you want to take things thermophilic, this is the reason why T is lending me some assistance today for this video, because she already showed some great content on how to go about this. What it will require is a separate bin, something about the size of a small kitchen trash bin, and a whole lot of bedding. In this case, cardboard. So let's take a look at that process now. And that process is what is called pre-composting. Now, my friend T here, what she has is basically something about the size of a small kitchen trash can. And right out the bat, she's adding pulverized oyster shell. This is a great idea to get into the bedding in the initial going. Then she has a slurry of lemon, cucumber, and some garden waste, which is an excellent idea. And this is probably somewhere in the area of about 25 liters worth of bedding to probably in the area of 6 to 8 liters of slurry that she's going to be adding in. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, why go thermophilic? What is the whole point and purpose of doing this to go to this heat range? Well, you're going to find out, so please stay tuned as we go through this footage. She starts mixing everything in. And I mean, as you can see, she's not even just using straight brown. She's got everything from coffee filters to brown cardboard to white paper strips. I mean, she's got the whole kitchen sink in here. She adds in some more dry cardboard that's been shredded up, and now she's got something that looks almost like a chunky salsa, another slurry that she's going to add in. But trust me, this has got a ton of moisture in it, and it's exactly what she needs to properly coat and cover all of this bedding. Because you got to remember, this is a very deep bin that she's using. And actually, you're going to find out later on in this video, it really isn't that deep, but it looks that deep. It looks really deep. But she's mixing through, and she's adding everything from coffee grounds now to onion and garlic peels. I mean, she is really, really going to town here, getting all kinds of good organics in place. Giving a good squeeze test to see how much moisture is coming out, and she's not even getting a drop. And then this here is brilliant. This is a lacto-fermented milk from Sweden. I don't remember the name. I'll let her key in at some point in the comment section with it. But what she did next was brilliant as well. She took some synthetic screening material, covered it with a bunch of her shredded up cardboard to restrict air access and also to restrict access for the flies. And as you can see, just even after mixing about an hour later, she's hitting somewhere close to about 95 degrees Fahrenheit in this bedding. Now, the thermometer probe that she's using, it's not very deep. That's maybe about 6 inches, and that's a really deep bin of bedding. She's only going down about 6 inches, but look at it already. I mean, within 3 hours, I believe it was 3 hours, she's already hitting the 100-degree mark. She's at 104 right here, and I believe it gets up, to 107 degrees. That's amazing. And that's just after a few hours of having the bedding mixed together. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she said it was about 3. So what you're going to see her do next is let this go for a few days, because that's what it needs to do. And it's going to start to cool down. And as she starts to see over the next few days, it actually starts to drop even well below 100. And that's good, because what that means is that the bacteria are starting to get themselves established. So she just, she's making sure that everything is really getting properly cooled down. She's taking a look at her ambient temperature, which looks to be about 82 in that room. She goes right directly in the middle, and she sees that, yeah, it definitely is starting to cool down. So this is a good sign. That means that she's already hit the mesophilic stage. And what she's going to do next is she's going to put together another slurry to add into this bedding to take it thermophilic. But I mean, you guys look at this material. It's absolutely gorgeous. She could use this right now in her bins and it would be perfectly fine, but she wants to go thermophilic. And again, I know you're wondering yourself, why do that? Why bother with all this heat? Well, look at this bedding. I mean, look how beautiful and gorgeous it is. I would agree with anyone who would be thinking, why bother? It's perfect the way it is right now. You could use it as is. And she even identifies with that. But what she does is she takes some more of that lacto-fermented Swedish milk along with a bunch of fruits and vegetables, and she puts together what's almost looking like a soup here. But this is really going to get things cooking, you guys, because this second phase of heating, going thermophilic, with the depth that she has and the way that she's restricting the oxygen access to the bedding, both for the flies and to give the bacteria an opportunity to really get cooking, is a really, really proper process in pre-composting your bedding. Now, as you can see, she's putting it in, it's really fibrous material. It's not just sinking down to the bottom immediately. It's extremely wet, but very fibrous. And she's gonna have to really mix this in thoroughly now. But I mean, look at the depth that she has inside of this bin. I mean, she's just getting things started here, but as she starts to dig down, look at the depth. Now, this might be a trick to your eyes, but believe it or not, what she's using here is actually a bin that's only about 15 by 12 inches in size. But look how deep it is. She adds in a whole bunch of new shredded bedding because at this point you can to buffer things up, and actually it's a great idea because it will allow you to take this new bedding material and get it exposed to the thermophiles immediately. But it's just a process now of her mixing and getting everything put together. And because this next process that she's going to have it go through, this period of time that this is all going to sit and cook, you're going to be amazed. Because right now, it looks like it's perfectly ready to go as it stands, but it's going to go through this final heat cycle to go thermophilic. But I mean, look at this material. Look how beautiful it is. Absolutely gorgeous bedding. Absolutely gorgeous. But as gorgeous as this bedding is, what she needs to do right now that she's gonna show us is that she's gonna take a temperature reading just to see where things are at. She's probably not expecting much to be beyond the ambient temperature of a room, and in fact, that's what it turns out to be, roughly about 80 degrees. Now, you're gonna also see her take a look at the corner and the edges over here by the bin, and it's gonna be at 78 degrees. So this is an appropriately expected, temperature reading for just having mixed the bedding up. But one of the things that you're gonna notice that she's gonna see in about an hour's time is that the bedding jumps about 2 degrees. This is really, really good news because what this is showing her is that this bedding is ready to truly go thermophilic. All she's going to need to do now is just put her synthetic screening material back on top of it with her additional shredded up cardboard to kind of restrict access to both oxygen and keep the flies out. And this bedding is definitely going to go thermophilic. Now again, I know you're wondering yourself, why bother? What is the point? Trust me, you're getting ready to see. But this whole process is truly, truly amazing. I mean, given the depth of this bin being only about 15 inches, that bedding is just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. But she went ahead and she covered it up. And within about 3 hours after she covered the bedding back up, she went in to go do another reading. This is in the middle of the evening for her. So it's 82 degrees in her room there. And she pokes her probe in, which again is only about 6 inches deep, and there is a 15-degree jump in temperature in 3 hours. Look at this. Right now it's just at 95. It was at 80 on the edges right after about an hour from the mixing point. 3 hours later, 95 degrees. Again, a really, really good sign that this is definitely going to go thermophilic. And 15 hours later, that's precisely what ended up happening. She's getting ready to do one final temperature check because she's expecting that this has in fact happened now at this point. It's about 84 degrees there in her room. She pulls back her synthetic screen and the bedding, and she goes directly into the center. And what you're going to see, and it's a little bit hard to see, but 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Amazing, within almost, I would say she was just getting ready to go to day 6. But the reason this is so remarkable, you guys, is because you're able to get this type of quality bacteria into your bedding within a week's time. 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Amazing stuff. As you see in T's video, she was able to go thermophilic way above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The result of using that bedding in her bin with her worms after 1 month, I mean, it's incredible. Take a look at the results. And this is the reason why you want to give consideration to pre-composting and going thermophilic. 42 days later, look at these materials. Look at those castings. Listen, if you're a small to medium-sized worm farmer and you're wanting to include castings as part of your products, you couldn't go much better than this. I mean, that is a great quality product. But regardless to whether you're a small worm farmer or just somebody at home that enjoys keeping your worms, please give consideration to one of these two methods. Because as you can see, after 10 weeks and a lot of heartache and headache for me, I did achieve similar results. But regardless to whether you're wanting to go mesophilic just as a home vermiculturalist, or thermophilic as someone who's keeping a small to medium-sized worm farm, gang, please properly cycle your bins. It's just going to take you maybe an additional 10 days to 2 weeks tops, and it's going to make your experience so much better. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, just pop something down in the comment section below. And again, I'm going to leave all of the links to T's channel and the specific videos that I used in this video in the description box below for you guys to take a look at yourselves. And T, I really want to thank you so much for allowing me to use your content. You've got wonderful stuff. Until next time, you guys, wherever you are in this world today or tonight, you take care. Bye for now.